see it as we now get into the operator ban phase. After Beast Coast and Sonics, a victory for Sonics there ties them with OXG at the top. Xset versus DZ could be one of DZ's easiest games moving forward, and it will need to be a victory for DZ if they want to try to make it to the major. A loss there for Dark Zero to Xset will most likely make their trip to the major impossible at that point, unless they go on a miracle run for the remainder of the season. And then Mirage versus Astralis has huge implications for the bottom, but we don't need to talk about that anymore. We can refer back to it because it's time to get into Space Station versus TSM. Operator bans are in on the board. Warden banned out is a bit unorthodox, but Hibana and Flores are relatively understandable. Valkyrie will join as well. That means that Wamai and Miro will both be available, two operators that tend to see a high ban rate, whose impact can be quite large on this map.
So Warden actually has a similar role to an SAS operator on defense, very interestingly, but he has a different set of kit. Obviously, he's going to have that 1.5 on that MPX. That's a headshot machine. You are going to win a lot of fights with that gun. I know it's a pea shooter, but the 1.5 makes all the difference on a gun like that. The reason why you're going to ban him out is because you really want to clear out specific corners that take a lot of work as an attacker. And if you put a Warden there, you bring that Ying, then it's going to be really hard for the defense to accommodate, to deal with that. That's why you see Bolo. I mean, obviously the Ying 6 pick from SSG. No duh, right? They get rid of the Warden. They know where they're going with this. That's also why you see the Wamai 6 pick from Bolo, though. He knows what's happening as well. He's aware that the Ying is coming. The Warden band broadcasts it. And, well, yeah, you got to counter that Ying somehow. So bring the magnets, bring the Jaeger. You've got the kit to stop it. You're going to see those as mainstay defenders for most rounds until the Ying stops being brought.
Yeah, and Ella has slowly become very meta on this laundry supply room defense. Some teams will bring the FO12. For those of you that are unaware, that is Ella's shotgun. Then she's got the Evo Scorpion as her main weapon that you'll see most often. And the reason for that is pillar control is crucial. Pillar being almost the center of your screen right now. And big ups to our observers for showing that one off. Usually teams will attack with a bunker buster composition, which is what that Ying is going to be a main focal point of. You can either attack the blue tarps area of bunker down below, you can take control of meeting and then blow open that hatch and then drop your Candelas down there. But all of the while that this is happening, that pillar is center stage in the defense and is essentially the beachhead. Once the attackers can take control of pillar, they'll usually get the soft or hard wall right next to it. In this case, TSM has left it soft. And then they can begin to exert some influence on the back of the site, which gets very cramped for the defenders. They get shoved into freezer and they try to play defensively from that front of laundry room. Anyway, it's 30 seconds off the board and we'll witness TSM's very first defense on the bottom floor site.
So an interesting use of a nade there from Houghton to clear the top of laundry stairs. They're not taking any risks, Space Station. They're trying to be thorough. And rightfully so against TSM, who will push you to the limit. Now they're droning their way into pillar. That's Skies on drone, hard support, doing his job. What a legend, as he's followed up by Fultz, another legend. And SSG are starting to open up these drops. With the Hibana ban, they have to bring the Maverick to open the drops. You could bring a Thermite, it'll get you 2. You could bring a... which they have done as well. You could bring a Ace that'll only get you 1. In general, a Thermite and a Maverick, that combo is the most efficient for opening drops when Hibana is banned.
Now, obviously, it goes without saying that when a team bans an operator, they're not likely to be caught off guard by it. In this case, Space Station banned Hibana, which means that they are hoping that it will help them when they move to defense by hurting TSM on attack. That's why you see SSG bringing the double hard breach combo of Maverick and Thermite. Ace is available but will not be played, so you don't need him for now, I suppose. And there's been some changes to the way that we see hard breachers brought. In this case, the grenades of Hot and Cold will come in quite handy, and they very likely have nades in the hands of Rampy as well, and the Gon 6 is a secondary. So lots of soft destruction as Space Station are setting up to attack the front of Laundry, and out goes one of those shots from Fultz. I don't know if it connects or not, but the ADS of Achieved doesn't get what it wants. Still playing off of this freezer angle. Achieved watching the stairs, posted up at this position. He knows that they're coming in that direction, but he doesn't know when, and he's looking in the wrong way. He turns around right as the Candelas come out. Rampy's grenade finds Achieve. There you go. You've pushed the Jaeger off of that spot, and immediately Bosco will charge forward, picking off Bolo. Hot and Cold drops, as does Fultz. Team sitting in a 3v3. 30 seconds remaining, and TSM posted up, still watching this position. Slowly the dominoes fall, but TSM knows that it's a freezer take. The last 3 players from SSG are all in that same position, but they seem to lack some critical intel. A brief rotate by the Ying of Bosco from above, and Gio is tasked to stop this, but he can't do it. He thinks that there's going to be a push out. A Candela goes in front of him, a smoke cut off. He misses out on Bosco, but Chala doesn't, and Gio finishes off onto Rampy. It was a 3v3, but TSM doesn't lose a single player in the final moments. They hold steady and take round 1.
Well done there to TSM. So let's talk about what happened. First of all, I want to address the operator bans. So for TSM, they banned out Flores and Valkyrie. Those are bog standard on Oregon. You got to get rid of those, especially if you're starting on defense. You really don't want the Flores in play. That's going to allow you to hold elbow, yada, yada, yada. You don't want to hear about that. The more interesting ones are the Hibana and the Warden bans. Now, SSG with those bans are effectively pushing themselves into control. They are the ones dictating who picks what right now. They are the ones with the offset bans, with the slightly different bans, trying to keep their opponent on their toes. And that difference is notable in that it allows SSG to manipulate the strategy in the way that the execution's happening. Now, the problem last round was not the strategy, rather it was the execution of said strategy. What happened was TSM picked off the only 2 players who were pushing by Laundry. And if you know anything about competitive Siege, you know that crossfires are essential on an execute or a defense. Once you lose that player by Laundry or players by Laundry, the guys in Freezer on attack, they're all just trapped. How are they going to fight their way out of that? Well, the Candelas might help, but they only got Bolo. That's it. And then they were completely out of Candelas. What do you do now? Well, you're pretty much trapped, like I said. So they tried to rotate Skies late, but it was way too late. And then the entire attack just fell apart.
Well, a bit too linear even after they got that very first pick onto Achieved, but they didn't get any map control from that as Achieved had scampered off of his hold. And TSM's setup was anticipating, or at least maybe not set up entirely for it, but was flexible enough to deal with a freezer hold. You saw that Gio immediately hit the ground when he was playing on Pillar. He was looking through the soft wall where he could catch the ankles of anybody running into the bomb site from that direction in Freezer. Obviously, he would have been susceptible if the attackers had a swung from Freezer towards Pillar, but I don't know if they'd effectively droned it out and had all that information. That said, we're now 30 seconds into round number 2, and it's a top floor defense, the only bomb site that happens to be on the top floor of Oregon, known affectionately as Kids Dorms. So, if you're up here, the setup that TSM has, if you're SSG, how do you read into this? Well, a lot of teams will want to take from Big Tower, push into Attic. Yet again, a Jaeger will be the first line of contact, but it's not Achieved in this case. It's Merc playing off of that role. All 3 of his ADSs are positioned in front of him because the primary target of SSG's aggression is going to be that deployable shield. SSG wasting no time by already working away at the double Attic panel from Big Tower. As you can see, hot and cold blowtorching it away. All the while, another hard breach goes off, this time from the opposite side of the map, onto that closet wall leading into games, and that Skies is the one to accomplish it.
Yeah, so wall open now and Achieved. I think he messed up his Electro Claws there. He was a little too slow. It was destroyed by the explosion from the Thermite. He's still got 1, so that's an ineffective use of Cade there, unfortunately, or Kaid, excuse me. Merc trying to hold on to Attic, and he's got all 3 of his ADSs to hold this position. That's really good prediction from TSM to expect what's about to happen. The Ying play on Attic window. Bosco can clear all those ADSs and still have Candelas, but it's an expensive ask. And when he goes for that, it's going to be well broadcasted. Here it comes.
Merc is still there. Bosco's going to look to angle this in a position where it does maximum damage, and off the window frame, who knows? Out it goes, and it detonates immediately by swinging on over, and hot and cold takes out Merc. The Jaeger is first to fall yet again. SSG opens up the killing. They've got more work to be done, and it wasn't successful in the very first round. Nitro Cell blown by Bolo with 30 seconds remaining, and more Candelas going out, and this time TSM's defense not quite as stalwart. Oh, but I might have eaten my words, as Gio and Achieved managed to give their team a lead, or at least trade it back. But Hot and Cold's a monster. 3 big kills from on the board, and down below, the 3 armor of Achieved is going to be making a ton of noise. Now, he is a Nitro Cell, but he's too late. Diffuser's already been planted, so you're going to have to use that as a distraction, herald your way back to the top of the bomb site. And he actually catches the Yana, but he hesitates, and he doesn't see a 4K from Hot and Cold in his future. Excellent play from one of SSG's newer members, and it's a tie game at 1 apiece.
Huge round there from Houghton. I mean, I just played kind of a fun tournament against Houghton, And one thing I remember is that he was just constantly destroying us. I mean, we beat them, but it was like 12 kills every map from Hot and Cold. He is so consistent in everything he does, whether it's a meme tournament or in NAL top tier play. He just cannot seem to be stopped ever since he got dropped from Dark Zero. That was the big change for him, where it completely enabled him. He went from team to team, Barrage Space Station. He did all the things, and it just works no matter where he is. In this case, getting his team around and himself a 4K, but it was also, keep in mind, off of the back of Bosco's excellent Ying Candelas. His placement was perfect. I thought he was going to have to burn the 3 ADSs in pit, but no. He just places the Candela in a way that is not caught by the ADSs. He follows that up by placing a Candela deep inside of dorms, and that allows Hot and Cold to get 2 more kills after he gets the initial pick and pit. I mean, it's beautiful team play from SSG, and it's great to put a player like Hotton in that really linchpin position where he either makes or breaks the round, because you know he's going to make it.
Well, you now begin to understand the Warden ban an awful lot, right? 3 rounds in, and Space Station has trotted out Ying every single time. In terms of throwables, every player on the team has access to them. You've got 4 frag grenades, you've got 6 flashes, you've got 2 smokes, and then you've got the 3 Candelas, plus the Gone 6 as well from Rampy. That is a whole hell of a lot that a Warden could potentially help mitigate. Additionally, if Wamai were being played, he's not banned. I would like to repeat that. Wamai is not banned out. You could be doubling up here on your anti-toss denial. There's a Jaeger that's been present every single time. Expect to see either Jaeger or Wamai every single round, but SSG are really taking advantage of this ban, and through those 2 rounds, even though the first round did break in TSM's favor, they didn't exactly counter what SSG is bringing in the most adept of ways, and Geo could end up finding himself victim here. And how does he get away with 1 HP as the grenade goes off, taking the shield, and he's now engaged in a duel with Bosco on Repel, and only 1 HP is what stands between him and an early grave, and Bosco finishes the deal. Wow. Space Station flawless on First Bloods through the 3 rounds played.
That was a really great piece of teamwork we just saw from Space Station. They identified the problem, player in Arsenal, and they came up with the solution. Nades from below and pressure from Repel. It worked perfectly. No HP lost. Here comes the Finka boost as they try to push these attackers, or rather defenders, off of Armory and Trophy. They've done just that, as we saw Bolo fall back. He wanted to get a refrag. That'd be the ideal circumstance, but you could see that SSG are playing very cautiously. It's because they're aware TSM are going to be vying for that re, and they're not going to let it happen.
Well, there goes a Goyo shield. Folt still standing in his exact same position. Now the wall goes off, and Trophy is a bit clearer as the fire slowly extinguishes itself. Merc's favorite and most played operator is that Finka, so expect to see Finka when they swap sides, but for now SSG is going to give it a whirl. Next Goyo shield goes off, and the drones will bypass that opening in closet. No damage done to them by the toxic canister because robots can't breathe. Sorry if you disagree, but that's just the way the world works. I don't make the rules. Final minute to go, and TSM still holding very far off site, at least in Achieved's position. He had done this before as Kaid, but he's now taken up that same spot as Malusi. Hot and Cold doesn't seem to realize how close they came to Loggerheads. Adrenal Surge goes off as Skies takes a bunch of damage, and Chala gets a pick onto Bosco. It's not the first pick, because there had been one earlier on, but SSG looking to break into the site. Down goes Chala, but Merc refrags. They never cleaned out Attic, and Merc is still in there, so TSM can play with impunity as Space Station tries to push in. Skies does just that with Bolt side by side, but the retake from Achieved is there, and they'll go hunting for the very final member of Space Station, who is not long for this earth. And TSM answers back. Their second attempt here at Dorms proves to be successful.
Solid hold there from TSM. Crucially, the push downstairs from SSG did not have a lot of success. They ended up losing Hot on down there. And that's big for TSM because that eliminates your X factor. You no longer have to consider the extra angle that SSG might try to present. There was no attic pressure whatsoever. Their only real push for attic was, let's go through trophy door into pit. That's dangerous. That's very risky, and Merc punishes that harshly. Now, when you lose that pressure, when you don't have that extra, again, the crossfire, we talk about these crossfires so much, then it's really difficult to make a push out of trophy or even the breach successful. Because it's just linear. It's straight linear. when you have that kind of attack, it is usually going to fail unless it's a rush and the enemy team is not expecting it or not ready for it. And this was not the case, obviously. So it's a pretty routine hold from TSM, but still a solid one regardless. I think the most important variable was the roam downstairs.
Well, 2 times that now we've now seen TSM play off-site, and the drone work for Space Station not quite so sufficient. They didn't know where Achieved was playing just outside of Meeting, over by Kitchen, and it ends up being a thorn in their side. Not that that was their single problem, but when Achieved came back, he was able to prey on the fact that SSG had no idea the whereabouts of the one player from TSM that wasn't within the confines of either bomb site. So something that SSG does need to work on is going to be maybe some more drone work. And so far, SSG has not looked like a bad team. Neither of these teams have really put in a poor effort thus far. Some matches Michael characterized, obviously, by which team makes the least mistakes versus which teams that are making the most mistakes tend to have a good round here or there. I don't think that's the case. That said, it's a second attempt at laundry supply room for TSM. They were successful the first time around, and now they're back here in round number 4, only having played these 2 sites. And they're not going to make any mistakes about this denial, bringing Wamai and Jaeger to deal with the abundance of things that can be thrown out by SSG.
I love this. You don't really see what's happening here. Achieved is playing by T1 stairs, and what he's doing is he's trying to shoot drones for his teammate and bait for his teammate up in T3. Hod's going to drone this out, but he's not going to be able to see Geo because Geo's hiding behind the metal. He's looking, he's checking, and okay, he just says it's clear, and he moves on. Now, you could drone it by jumping up the ladder, but it takes so much time, most people don't usually bother. Achieved shooting the drones, again, baiting for his teammate, and Geo might go undetected in T3 because of that. So that little bit of teamwork could net a flank later in the round, depending on what SSG decide to attack.
There goes that exothermic charge upstairs inside of security. So a drop into freezer is now secured for Space Station. Bolts will watch over that as Skies goes to drone work. The thing is that while I was a bit critical of Space Station's coordination off of that, they have been on drones quite consistently. Skies in particular spending an abundance of time on it. As you can see, Rampy has been as well, which is not odd, but for somebody like Rampy who enters in 4th overall in terms of ratings, top 5 in kills per round, he's somebody that you wouldn't expect to spend so much time scouting out that intel, but if it works for the team, then that's all that matters.
Well, there's no entries for either team so far. This is going to be an absolute brawl when we hit the moment, and here it comes as the Candelas start to pop off. Nobody netted, though, off the first Candela. There's still 2 for Bosco, so he can make that work for him in the future.
There's a grenade that goes off, and it'll do a little bit of damage to Achieved. Another grenade goes off, this one more successful, immediately fired back by TSM. Both teams competing on even footing. Merc might take some damage if he plays around this the wrong way. Bosco charging in while Rampy covers, and it's only a shred of HP, not realizing there's still somebody playing an elbow, and Chala's there to govern that position. TSM swatting away the entry from Space Station. And once again, SSG will trail. It goes from bad to worse, and there you go. Another lockout from TSM. Even if Space Station are getting the upper hand at the beginning of the conflict, TSM are cool as a cucumber, Michael, because they have stopped that push 3 of 4 times thus far, and that's exactly the round count that we sit at between these 2 teams.
Yeah, so here's the problem, Parker. It's just... So, okay, first of all, I got to say I really like the way that SSG is playing this. I think it's super interesting. I think their employment of that the cut, you notice, I'm sure most of you have noticed that they are very, very focused on getting freezer door control so that they can cut off the middle of the site and eliminate players on rotation. But here's the problem. TSM are too aware of that for it to work. See, when the enemy team knows what cuts you're going for, they can just avoid those angles. For example, they leave a player on elbow. So since TSM still has a player on elbow, you'd think, oh, well, that's far removed from the take, and they're not going to be directly influential, but not the case, because SSG are relying on the explosive entry following the Candelas for their success. And that explosive entry usually will work if a team is in your standard anchor positions, because that entry knows exactly what they're looking for. You still have a guy on elbow, and the entry's like, wait, where's the person I'm trying to kill? Where's the entry point that I'm trying to, get at? And then they get swatted away by the person playing further back on defense. So because TSM is aware of what SSG is trying to pull, yeah, I mean, it won't work. It's not going to work for SSG. They need to dive deeper, and they need their Candelas to be deeper. And I mean, that's a whole ask in itself in terms of utility. There's a lot of layers there. It's not as easy as you might think. So that's causing a problem for Spacestation. They need to adjust, especially their basement attack.
TSM will go to a bomb site that they have not yet played. They've gone to laundry twice and dorms twice, and in this one, going to the typical kitchen meeting defense that we tend to see. I don't know if one of those kitchen cafeteria will pop up or not, but we'll keep our eyes on it. For now, very similar to what you see out of that basement hold, is that teams will want to defend Big Tower. Gio will be on a collision course here as he walks right into the waiting arms of Hot and Cold, who has been so proficient. And it's 5 rounds in a row of the 5 that we've played where SSG have been successful with the ensuing conflict. But right in lockstep, just like every other round, TSM can answer that one back. So while an opportunity is given to Space Station, it is fleeting at best, as TSM have been so good at keeping this close. They very narrowly take a lead. They miss out on that opportunity by a hair. Rampion back tower absorbs tons of damage. He's got Bosco with him now. But TSM are aware of this, and it was the UMP Ebolo that was doing some damage.
That damage is definitely going to be a problem for Rampy later on. You can see Bolo is ready for more. He wants another opportunity to do some damage, get a kill, put his team in the lead in terms of mana power, and so far, he's not given that opportunity. Now, you can see SSG are starting to run out of time. That's very important. Only a minute left, and remember all those other linear attacks that SSG have brought out? Yeah? Remember how those all failed? Well, they're setting up for what could be the most linear of attacks right now. A pure big tower take with a minute left and 1 player low on HP. This is going to be tricky.
And there's smokes going out onto the stage. Down goes Bolo. Hot and Cold's kill tally is really something to behold, and he is making tons of space for his team. He's got more to deal with. Nitro cells still available. Merc doesn't have any smokes left. He's just a gun, and he's gone again. Hot and Cold finds kill number 3. He's already got a 4K in 1 round. He's looking for more, and how about another 4K? And Ace Denied is achieved, shuts him down. But playing over by Flag, he's going to have to come back into the bomb site with Rampy watching. And no opportunity for Skies to get that diffuser down. It was an absolute brawl, but SSG walks out of that round with a win.
Wow, the 4K for Hodden, nearly the ace. He was so close, Parker, to an ace. 2 4Ks in a 1 map, though. That is wild. And we cannot sing the praises of Hot and Cold enough. I stand by what I said, Parker. That execution certainly would have been very difficult for SSG. Were it not for Hot and Cold picking up a 4K. The trend with both of the rounds that SSG have won so far, Hot and Cold got a 4K.
Both times.
Both times. And
Both times.
It's just, it's silly. I'm on the one hand, I'm impressed by Hot. And on the other, also, keep in mind, his team is setting him up for it. That's very important. He is not just getting these willy-nilly. He is being assisted by the Candelas, the drone work, the calls. Like, he wouldn't have known that he could needed somebody by sandbags last round if it weren't for the call on the ADSs. I'm sure that came out. So this kind of communication, or even clearing ADSs if there were any, that's important to Hot and Cold's success, but he is also still the key to this success on the other hand.
Well, final defense now for TSM as they want to ensure that they outright win this half. It's been an impressive 3 rounds stitched together on Oregon, where we do tend to see Oregon be quite well balanced between teams that know it, as well as these two teams do. SSG once again threw that Warden ban in specifically to take advantage of TSM's inability to stop all the throwables that SSG brought. But guess what? I don't really think it worked as effectively as they wanted. At best, Space Station is going to walk away with a tie here with 3 rounds. They've been wonderful at getting these opening picks. So far, flawless, in fact. They come very close to doing it again with Achieved on the run over by Small Tower, and that's where SSG will start this assault. They're going to want to clear that out, then take control of Kitchen, do some damage from below before translating the 2 hard breachers up top. There's also a Capitao on the board of Hot and Cold, and this one is a bit unorthodox in comparison to what we've seen from previous rounds. A Capitao is not always a must pick for this bomb site, but he does have access to the can opener, that hard breach tool, so they might not have a Maverick on the board, but there is another gadget to break through any reinforcements they find.
Yeah, it's a solid amount of hard breach, I'd say. If you're gonna only bring one, you could bring that supplemental with the can opener. I agree with that. And it's being used downstairs. I think SSG has gotten wise to the fact that their attacks are become a little too linear, and that's why they're going for a downstairs clear on a top floor defense. It's also says that they are aware of how heavy TSM is focusing on the roam, because a downstairs clear can usually net you a kill or two on those roamers. You can see that they've just been isolated from the site. Yes, TSM's roamers will escape. Bolo and Achieve, they're going to descend into the basement. But if the cuts are correct, those roamers won't be able to get back to the site, which isolates 3 players on site for TSM and creates a power vacuum that can be jumped into by the players on SSG. That's a big opportunity for the attack, assuming it's properly utilized. But I wasn't wrong, but like the cuts weren't correct, and the roamers have made it back to site already.
Well, with all that said, there's a minute to go, and SSG have decided that they don't want to take Attic, they don't want to take Master, they're going to go for a window plan, and Bosco just runs right into Dorms. 6 rounds in a row that SSG have led off the kills. Will TSM be able to answer back? The answer is usually yes, but there's a bit of a pause right now. A ceasefire, maybe, but Bosco goes huge. He takes down 3 in the process before Merc ends his killing, leaving the Jaeger as the last man standing for TSM. Diffuser planted by Skies, so SSG will get out of dodge. Quite successfully so. This seems like an impossible task for Merc. Will he be able to pull it off? Crossfire's established directly in front of him. If he looks to the right, they're going to kill him from the left, and that's exactly what happens. Fultz says no more. Former teammates, now adversaries. The first half is in the books, Michael. Both teams walk away with 3 rounds.
All right, first half was really interesting, Parker. We saw a lot of moments where SSG have a plan and TSM counter that plan harshly. We saw a lot of moments where TSM struggled despite being in the advantageous position. Opportunities lost, opportunities made. I'm surprised by how many rounds TSM managed to take away from that, to be honest, because it looks like SSG's attacks were in full command for the majority of the time. The real saving grace for TSM, and I think the main reason they got 3 rounds out of that first half, is specifically the bottom floor defense, which is going to be the first site that SSG go to now in the second half. Because that bottom floor defense, specifically the thing that SSG was relying on when they were attacking, that cut from freezer door, just was ineffective. And because of that, TSM were able to hard counter, and they managed to get those 2 really important rounds. So now going into the second half, there's a lot of strategies that you could see in play from both of these teams. That's typical of TSM and SSG. So there's no guarantee this is going to be another 3-3 half. One of these teams could start running away with it here. Curious to find out what's going to happen.
Bolo's on the Finca this time, so TSM likes this operator an awful lot. Michael Merc is going to be on Sledge, so a small change in terms of who's going to be playing what operator. It was talked about in the pre-show. You might be wondering to yourself, why are we talking about Finca? Well, we've seen Finca through 2 rounds thus far. SSG brought her out for a single round, and that was it. The experiment was very short-lived. Maybe 2 rounds? I can't exactly recall if it was 2, but I know 1 for sure. As for TSM, it's Merc's most played operator. So that is something to keep an eye on in regards to how this is going to be used by TSM. As we talk about that, 30 seconds into the very first defense for SSG, and they've got Rampy on a suicide mission right now, playing at the top of Big Tower. Hot and Cold is not too far off. They see drones dropping in front of them, and Rampy's going to be sitting with some denial from those ADSs, but they'll only catch 2 things. Surya Gates there in front of him as well could potentially help, and a nade from below is tossed out, but Rampy's already moved off of that position. Somebody tries to rappel through that second floor window. Hot and Cold has that position under watch.
This is a really good... Oh, no, the roam from Fultz. Will it get detected? No is the answer. Merc goes down. No drone work from TSM. Merc on a solo entry, and he's punished for it. The challenge, though, over by T3, goes the way of Achieved before he's C4'd by Skies. The assist from SSG, and making that T3 roam a win is massive. They will not only get the leadoff pick, but they will walk away from the roam successful.
Really beautiful stuff from Space Station on that coordination. The Nitro Cell, Hot and Cold having his teammates back. And Rampy knew that in that position he was playing to die. We all knew it as well. The only way you're getting out of there alive is if you kill everybody and then drop down and try to go through the stairs into the basement. And that so seldom happens. So TSM have used about half of this round to clear out that position. The fallback from Houghton and Skies proves to be successful, but it cost TSM greatly. They'll now try to take control of Meeting, and they've got the stage wall in front of them. Hot and Cold has not completely made it back to the bomb site just yet. He's sitting inside of security right now. And if he's got to rotate in the kitchen, he could potentially catch them off guard. Okay. TSM's focus seems to be very much on that pillar part of the bomb site. Hot and Cold does have that rotate, so there's an avenue back. Bolo takes out Fultz, so even though SSG continues to get these very first picks, TSM are keeping it close throughout these rounds.
This is an interesting one so far, Parker. Pillar control for TSM is massive, and oh, the timing! Don't know if that would have been a full exposure there, but either way, opportunity lost. Chala setting up for the plant. Nades going in to try and cover. Bolo uses the Finka charge to heal his teammates up, give him a little bit of overheal, and he's going to go for a push in the hallway. Very dangerous. Will he get away with it? The answer is no. Actually, it's Chala who goes down. Pistol out, and Houghton gets a third with the pistol. Beautiful play as he inserts himself in the midst of them all and just guns them down one by one.
Houghton is everywhere all at once. This man is smurfing on TSM right now, and this was the Hot and Cold that used to dominate the matches when he was on Mirage, and there's a reason why Space Station wanted him. They picked him up, brought him in after Canadian had stepped off of the roster. Luke was in as a temporary sub, and boy, oh boy, what an impressive tally by Hot and Cold.
Specifically to counter TSM's clear, because they knew TSM would. That's the big thing. And that clear was halted in its tracks. The initial clear, in fact, was punished so severely that they ended up losing manpower advantage and a significant chunk of their utility. And you follow it up with little things like a mute jammer on the stage wall, just to slow down the exothermic charge you know is going to go onto that wall because you know TSM wants to open it. It reeks of SSG knowing how TSM is going to execute, reading them like a book, and setting up a counter strat specifically for them. It could also be a standard, just T3 investment. TSM could have walked straight into the trap, but I think it's more deliberate than that, and I love seeing stuff like that.
So we had some issues in regards to audio sync that seemingly have been resolved, and we'll keep a close eye on it. Thank you so much for your patience, by the way, as we now get underway with the remainder of this matchup. For those of you that are just tuning in through the first half, well, it was a 3-3 scoreline between these two teams. The tale of the tapes for the squads is that they enter almost in the same position in the standings. Space Station in third, TSM in fourth. At stake is a position at the upcoming major. Only 4 teams from North America will be present.
I like steak.
Sorry?
I like steak.
It's a great thing. It's not a given that OXG will qualify, but they do have quite a lead. If the Sonics and Space Station both end the day with victories, then they will tie OXG, who has the day off, with 12 points apiece. And because of the implications that that has on TSM, Beast Coast, and Dark Zero down below, it's going to be really tough to catch those 3 teams. And while they won't have clinched a spot, they'll be very close to having clinched it. That said, that's just a bigger look at what the matchup is, because there's a lot more going on. It's a Dorms defense this time. The second defense that we see for Space Station, and Rampy is playing in the same suicide spot upstairs in the top of tower.
Very hard position to hold, and he's going to be successful. Down goes Achieved. That is going to be huge. So he's done his job. Rampy can now die, and there it is. The grenade will kill him before the C4 detonates. So well done. He just saved Geo's life. Good job, Merc. But it doesn't matter because he did his job. Achieved goes down. And now the momentum is squarely in favor of the defenders. I know it's an even man count. Doesn't matter. That T3 roam, if it gets anything, is successful. So big win there for Rampy.
Well, yet again, another big opening pick. Space Station on 8 in a row thus far. Every round has gone in their direction, and the stats behind opening picks are usually quite jarring. It's usually about 70 to 80% success rate for the team that gets that opening pick. Obviously, the thing to take into consideration is how quickly a refrag happens. TSM have been able to trade out more often than not, which is why the scoreline is as tight as it is, despite the fact that Space Station have been so proficient at that. But on even footing, both teams at 4 players apiece. With just under a minute to go in the round, the Dorms site is the focus for TSM. They're going to try to take advantage of the fact that there's no Warden as well, with a Ying on the board. No Finka experiment this time. TSM didn't like it after the first round. They'll watch the big window, and so will Space Station as a grenade gets caught out, and it gets caught by Chala right in the face. A toxic canister goes, and with 30 seconds left, TSM will have to hop in and make something happen. Olo tries it, but he gets shredded by Houghton. The Wamai playing far enough back. Geo edging up onto the shield. He takes out Skies, and now there's something that they can exploit. Looking towards the back of the bomb site. Geo in a strong position here, but he has to collapse on Bosco as well. And Bosco's giving his position away, but Houghton Cold does it yet again. A double for him. He's still got more in him. It's Merc to try and fight against the remainder of the team. And how about a 3K from Houghton Cold? 15 kills through 8 rounds, and SSG are up 5-3.
How does Houghton win that? He has no right to win that. For those of you who are not familiar with Siege, when you are the one disengaging from the angle and someone else is engaging on an angle, the person engaging has a decisive advantage. Even on land. These players are playing on land, so the picture's advantage is minimalized. But even on land, this is still a consideration. It's just something that is unavoidable. The laws of physics make it so. So because of that advantage for the person peeking and the disadvantage for the person not peeking, Houghton had no right winning that. How did he win that? A 3K for the man. He holds it together for his team, and frankly, it was falling apart at the seams for SSG. TSM's execution was perfect. Skies was distracted because of the Candelas, and he was playing inside a pit. Skies' job was to hold the attic push. He was unsuccessful because of that distraction. TSM opens the site wide open because of that. And it should be an easy breezy execution for TSM following that. But then off screen, Houghton Cold picks up 2 kills on 2 separate entries from 2 separate lanes, and then wraps it up with the bow in the third. Not that he didn't really even need to do that. His teammate would have been able to clutch. But the point still stands. The man, I want to stop. I'm so tired of talking about him because he deserves all the praise that he's being rendered, but it's just, you know, somebody else gets a 4K, please. Someone else pick up all the kills. I mean, right time, right place, right player, but geez, man, Houghton cannot keep getting away with it, Parker. That's I think, 4 rounds now that Houghton has clinched for his team of the 5 that they've won. And that's, I don't know. That's a silly tally. So, after winning their defense in dorms, SSG will go down to their tertiary bomb site. It's going to be Cafeteria. Parker wondered if we would see Cafeteria through this map. It seems we will.
I did wonder that.
And here we are. Yeah.
Well, every single bomb site has now been played. This is a statement bomb site, I think, for Space Station. I know that they can play every bomb site on Oregon. They are a flexible team, and it is no surprise that they will want to go to a site that teams don't always love. The typical and most conventional setup on defense for this bomb site is where Rampy was positioned inside of showers. You're going to want to play in there with a soft wall in front of you next to the reinforced panel. You also want to have a rotate back to the site, which is where Rampy is. He's sitting on cams right now, but Wamai will often carry those impacts, so you can very quickly get back into Cafeteria. The thing is that if you can't hold that part very effectively, then you can get overrun by the attackers, and I know that TSM is well prepared for this. I don't expect them to be bamboozled by it. Another thing to note is that this operator roulette that's being played by Bolo, ooh, very first round, that TSM is able to get an opening pick, and it happens against Fultz. So the timeout may be a bit too early to call the round for them, but paying dividends right off the bat. The new flashbang's working on Houghton Cold as he is now in a rock and a hard place, but a run out from Bosco will at least attract their attention for about a second. And TSM with 45 seconds into the round have got that very first pick. The point I was trying to make before I toss back to you, Michael, Bolo has been on an operator roulette. He started on Finca, he went to Ying, now he is reunited with Zofia, once his most popular and most played operator. We'll see if it changes the fortunes of TSM, as Bolo desperately needs something to kickstart this offense as he's 3-7.
Yeah, very important that Bolo starts finding the board. I think he based on what I'm seeing from the look on his face and the way he's playing, the way he's jumping from angle to angle, I think he's just overthinking it. And this happens sometimes. It looks, you know, I don't want to psychoanalyze too hard here, but it does happen in Siege. Sometimes all you really need to have to be successful in Siege is just to confidently do whatever it is you think was right for the moment. And it doesn't seem to be happening, not necessarily just for Bolo, for a number of players in this lobby. I mean, there's a lot of people who are not performing right now. And that gives a lot more room for players like Houghton, who are clearly in the right mindset right now, to flourish. And it's exactly what we're seeing from SSG. Let's see if that'll keep up, as TSM still have the lead in this round.
Nitro cell in hand for Hot and Cold, sitting on top of these 380Ss. 1 minute to go. He's expecting a push from the window. He pulls trigger on the C4, but it's a bit too early. Merc is inside of Showers now, holding this position. A rotate from Hot and Cold will almost certainly spell his doom, but he gets out of there very quickly. He's just a step ahead of Merc. And a game of cat and mouse will continue. Hot and Cold getting ready for another potential multi-kill round. He's picked up one onto Geo, the Nomad no more. Teams at 4v4. The advantage from TSM not quite seized. Merc and Houghton will both tussle, and Impact goes out, but it's thrown just at the feet of Merc. No real damage being done there with 30 seconds to go. TSM need to push the shower control, and they need to go quickly because they're not taking any significant map control away. Mr. 16 kills, still holding the one angle in, and he's got a line of sight to the bomb site in A as well. TSM taking their sweet time. Down goes Rampy. Merc's second kill, looking for more. Houghton just narrowly backs away from the gunfire. He sees Merc, down he goes, punishing him. It's a double for Houghton. A third could be in the works as well. There it is, a fourth line right up. No, it's Bosco to get it, and a pivot as it's achieved from above. A death drop through the hatch with match point in the grasps of SSG. Achieve knows he's not going anywhere in a hurry. 3 big kills for Hot and Cold on that round. 18 in total, and it's match point for Space Station.
Parker!
Yes!
That's another round that Houghton won for his team. Another one! How is it? He can't keep getting away with it! That's... All right. So what happened there? Well, Houghton holding a shield in the hallway. You know, the really interesting thing about that one, Parker, is, yeah, part of it's Houghton. But also a big part of that is TSM and their mistakes. Frankly, they made a lot. There are a number of solutions to the Houghton problem in the hallway. And I'm glad that we got to see the actual first-person perspective this time, because it was a lot easier to analyze what happened. Houghton just played the shield. So why is that significant? Many other players put in the position that Houghton was in, especially after he lost most of his HP, would have panicked and retreated and fallen off their position and been like, oh my gosh, I have to get away, scary. I'm low on HP and my teammates are falling back. I have to fall back. Not Houghton. No, sir. He's like, I got my shield. I'll play my shield. And the shield could have been destroyed by TSM. And Houghton could have just been peeked by the guy in Showers. And, I mean, they could have double peeked in the hallway and pre-fired on the angles. I mean, there are so many options. The most important, obviously, the option that was not used by TSM is just destroy the heckin' shield. The lack of presence of mind to do that. The lack of investment on the utility. The just absolute focus on the site causes too many problems. You can't even push site until you deal with that. So yes, Houghton, very impressive. He's patient. He considers his options. He doesn't make mistakes. This is something that I've said of other legendary players like Pengu. One of the most notable things about Pengu, one of the things that made him the world champion twice over, he doesn't make mistakes. So, yeah, I mean, Houghton, he's not making mistakes. I don't know what else to say. So twice over, 3 times over.
I mean, what more is there to say that can already be said? Hot and Cold has been the name on everybody's lips for the last couple of stages, from Mirage now through 2 stages of SSG, and I have no doubt that the poor performance that SSG and Hot and Cold in particular had in the Mexico Major is working as fuel for this fire that is now allowing SSG to thrive. Well, they've done a pretty magnificent job of this second half. They've picked up 3 rounds on defense in what is now looking like a very defender-sided Oregon, and the operator ban of Hibana might be hurting TSM a little bit more than they had expected, and that might be some shrewd investigative work by Space Station. You've given praise to Lycan earlier on during the tech pause, and well, I think it's fair to give it back. Both teams have very smart coaching staff behind them, both Data and Pojo for TSM, and Lycan and all the 40 analysts for SSG. And my goodness, this one might be over before it even gets started. Interrupting my train of thought, Space Station gets right back on the horse with that opening pick. And they make it 2 for a good measure. Both Bolo and Geo are no more in this match. If SSG can get the rest of the 3, we might have seen the last of those 2 players, as it's match point for Space Station with just over a minute to go.
This is the sort of result that you sadly can't predict. And the analyst desk is probably going to make note of this when we eventually get to that part. But you can't predict that several of the TSM main fraggers are going to have problems fragging today, and that Hot and Cold is going to be perfect. He's going to be playing Perfect Siege. He is currently playing Perfect Siege. You know, I'm not saying he can. I'm not saying he can keep doing that. Most players can't keep it up all the time, but he's having a day. And when you have a combination of someone having a day like this, and then several players on the other team just not having a good day, I mean, this is what you get: 20 kills, and I mean, we're just about done here.
I mean, unless they throw this round, there's no way he's going to break that regular record. So he'll look for some more, though, and he's got Merc in his sights. A Jiggle Peak will spell the doom of the sledge, and there you go. Nicely done. Only a tiny bit of damage to SSG thus far. Achieve turns around. There's another for Hot and Cold. Is a 4K up? No. Merc says 21's as much as you're going to get. But Bosco says that's fine. We'll take the 3 points anyway. A big victory from Space Station over TSM as a 7-3